So, here we go.
It was filled with childish frustrations and complexes. The police are searching for James Thomas.
Hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 9:03 p.m. Night Movie Gang. I'm here with my buddy Jack. Say hi, Jack.
Heyo.
Hi. And today, so for those of you just tuning in, if this is your first episode, this is a show where we talk about mainly kind of genre film, cult classics like horror, sci-fi, movies for fucking nerds. And I would say that these movies that we're talking about today definitely fall under those categories. Jack and we've kind of fallen into this, and I do really like this what do we call this, like the way that we do our episodes where we take two movies with like similar titles and compare them, and sometimes there's a lot that lines up. Like I feel like Arrival, there was a lot of lineup.
Yeah.
And then these movies that we're talking about today also kind of line up in some weird ways. Today we're talking about The Shape of Water, which is a 2017 period romantic dark fantasy film written, directed, and produced by Guillermo Del Toro. And we're talking about Lady in the Water, which is a 2006 American fantasy psychological thriller film written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, also starring in a pretty fucking major role in the movie.
Oh my.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah, you mentioned movies that are alike in a lot of ways. In terms of like what we've done up to this point for movies I mean, in terms of quality, they've been relatively comparable, even though they're like different in a lot of ways. Because like the Arrival episode, for example.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go.
I was gonna say Denis' Arrival. I mean, granted, thematically, like, yeah, all the alien shit coming through, but one of them is like this really thoughtful masterpiece, while the other one is just Charlie Sheen on crack. They're both like fun in an element. I did not have fun watching one of the movies we will be talking about in a little bit. I had the opposite of fun, but I also had fun at the same time watching it. We're gonna get into it, but Elsie put me through the ringer this time.
We'll say for a second, not Shyamalan is not for the faint of heart. I should have warned you that it's a fucking ride.
I can't believe a movie about Bryce Dallas Howard like kind of crying a couple times hit me more emotionally than a scene where literally a manfish gets beaten by Michael Shannon.
That's true. What is the more
traumatizing movie?
What got you the most volatile reaction out of you? Like what brought forth the animal spirit? Bryce Dallas Howard just being like slightly wet throughout the whole movie, never wearing any pants in this man's fucking apartment.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Holy shit! Oh.
Like just wearing this ragged shirt, like your fucking bare ass is on the couch, and the thing when me and Court were watching, like what the fuck? Put on some pants, goddamn.
Oh god.
But yeah, I want to talk about Lady in the Water in the second half. We'll reserve all that. We'll let it explode at the end. I want to talk about Shape of Water first for a few reasons. One, it's it kind of being the more serious of the two films, you could say, or like things that the more legitimate of the two films, I could say, lack of a better word.
Put it this way, it's the one that everybody that has watched the movie will take more seriously than the other one that we'll talk about, despite the filmmaker's intention.
It's also the movie I kind of wanted to talk about more in general. Like a while ago, I had said I wanted to do a Shape of Water video because Guillermo Del Toro is definitely. And rewatching it recently kind of confirmed that, Del Toro is like in my top 3 favorite filmmakers working right now for sure. Like I'd say Jordan Peele is in there as far as like who's working right now, and then who the fuck else? Who's good?
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan. Maybe not favorite in terms of working right now, but I like Trap, so and I like Trap. I liked Old. So I will always show up for we're gonna do an old episode soon, but yeah, no. So I was excited to talk about this one, Jack. I forget, did we see this one together in theaters? And this came out in 2017. I remember watching the Oscars where it won Best Picture, didn't it?
Yeah. So this one, it won Best Picture back in 2018.
Best Picture, Best Director, which is kind of crazy to me after rewatching. I'm like, this is a weird fucking movie.
Yeah,
for the Academy to give that,
especially in the year that it came out. And so just some context. So getting ready or watching this movie or revisiting it, this is the first time I realized I watched it since it first came out. And I was just wondering, I wonder where this came up on my list. And I haven't really been very good at it, but I mean, Elsie and I, we would talk about this always in college. Like, we would see everything we could.
yeah.
And I would make these really robust, like, Word documents with, like, Oscar predictions and shit. And I went back to my 2017 list. This movie didn't even make it for me. Like, on the top 10. You don't
that year.
I didn't realize how stacked 2017 is. I think it might be the best movie of that year for me. Like, you got
I'm looking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at a list of the Best Picture nominees from that year, and yeah, it had some fucking stiff competition.
Yeah, like
Holy shit.
my top 10 alone. Like, my number one was Good Time, which, granted, that's a very different movie than the rest. But, like, Call Me by Your Name, Phantom Thread, Three Billboards, Blade Runner, fucking Baby Driver, Dunkirk. Get Out
came out that year.
I don't love it, but Lady Bird 2 was huge. Yeah, 2017 was a monster year, and just seeing how, out of all the movies that were nominated, this is the one that got the most love, even though it was one of the more out there ones, all things considered. Even if it's not the most out there by Del Toro standards, it's still it's really, really great to see. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, it is interesting to see it amongst everybody. It kind of made me think about it, because I remember the nominations for this year's Oscars, which came out like last week from when we recorded this, or last week or 2 weeks ago. Seeing that The Substance is getting so much love, I'm like, wow, that's like a horror movie, like a body horror movie that's getting all this Oscar attention. And then like, you know, I guess looking back, I'm like, damn, the Oscars used to have more heat. 'Cause I feel like the last few years it's been it's been a little bit dull. But
I feel like I feel like you don't really see. I mean, generally you don't really see a lot of this caliber of movie, like body horror or like just creature horror elements, like, brought into the forefront. But seeing movies like this and The Substance are just so great to see.
yeah, seeing like all these genre elements taken in a very serious way is cool to see. But yeah, no, we pretty much just talked about usually, like, I'd be asking, like, what's your history like with this film? So I don't think we necessarily saw it together, but what's your history with Del Toro? Like, how you feel about him as a filmmaker? Like, what's like the first time that you saw a movie that went like, damn, this guy's got some, like, what's your history with Del Toro?
Well, we also did the for the
we did Pan's Labyrinth. Yes.
Yeah, the Pan's Labyrinth. I go into it there as well. You should also definitely check out that episode. We get to talk about David Bowie's bulge.
The Bowie bulge.
The Bowie bulge. It's so worth it.
Versus the Amphibian Man bulge.
We're gonna get into that too.
The Doug bulge.
The Doug bulge. Funny enough, Doug Jones was. I didn't realize that this was Doug Jones. This is gonna sound stupid, but I didn't realize it was Doug Jones until I I was like watching halfway through when I saw it back when it first came out, and I'm just like, oh, this feels like a role that Doug Jones would play really well, not just a CGI man. And of course it's Doug Jones, because Guillermo likes his boys. But yeah, I'd say that's probably the first one that I remember loving of Guillermo's movies was Hellboy and Hellboy 2, specifically Hellboy 2. But Pan's Labyrinth was probably the first one where I was like, yeah, this guy's got it. And then I kept him in the back of my mind. I mean, Pacific Rim was really cool. I actually don't think I've watched Crimson Peak since it's come out, or either since it's come out or all the way through. I'm trying to remember. I definitely started it at some point, but yeah. But then I have Devil's Backbone and Chronos on Criterion. But Nightmare Alley was also very, very pretty much. He doesn't have a bad movie in his catalog, but all of his movies are so interesting. And like generally, like you can feel the Del Toro fixtures, like the constantly fluid camera, the gothic elements to the mythology that's tied in. So all of Del Toro's movies feel like Del Toro. But it was probably right around now in 2017 with Shape of Water where I'm just like, yeah, I loved Pan's Labyrinth previously, but this, like, I'm locked into him.
No, Del Toro to me is one of my favorite filmmakers. I love so beyond just like a lot of the actual like IPs he's worked on and some of just the actual toys he likes to play with as far as like creatures and monsters and tech and sci-fi and fantasy, which I'm just already just getting me hard right there. A few things that I think he's really good at is like, one, he's very good at making extremely extremely out there things, like the creatures and monsters, and like really out there concepts, and really grounding them and making them feel real in a way that just like lets you buy into the movie more. I mean, even though, so Pacific Rim is an example, which Pacific Rim, I'd probably say it's not the first Del Toro movie I'd seen. I grew up watching Hellboy and Hellboy 2, and like I love Hellboy 2, but the first time I really paid attention to, I guess, Del Toro as a filmmaker was when I saw Pacific Rim, and I remember that movie having such an impact on me theatrically. And something that I think he's so masterful with in that movie is the constant reminders of scale in that film, and how expertly, like, even though like that movie in particular, like it's kind of based on all like anime, and like it's very like kind of over the top, it's giant monsters versus giant robots. Like I still feel like there are so many things in there that like really just bring it down to earth. Like the early shot in that movie of like the old, like there's like a guy and his son like on a snowy beach with like a metal detector, and one of the Jaegers is coming out of the mist, and we see the boy and his son in the foreground, and we see the giant robot coming out of the water, and like we see it fall, and the whole time we're following this, we're constantly getting reminded of this scale. And even beyond that, you like looking at the tech and the environments in that movie, like all the robots are like super patchy and like they're dirty, and there's like all these rusty parts and stuff. And he applies, I feel like more often than not, now that I'm just like I'm looking at Elizabeth's filmography, I feel like he's way more into combining urban elements with these like fantasy stuff. So like thinking about Pan's Labyrinth and the Hellboy movies, how like we're in these like cities and these like these compounds or whatever, but like there's all of this mystic stuff in ruins combined with like the kind of more modern like industrial technology. And he just I love seeing him blend that world, and it's something that and Shape of Water is no stranger to like this, the aesthetic of this movie, which we'll kind of get more into as we get into the plot. It's so fucking beautiful. Like the look of, from everything to like Eliza's apartment building, and like just the way that like the old movie theater that she like lives above, and how everything is just so old and creaky, but it's like really just beautiful and has all this personality. And then how it contrasts with the lab, and like how kind of like Bioshock looking acid, like it feels like a warm sewer. For lack of a better, like a cozy sewer, like I just want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean that plays in thematically like throughout too. I mean, there's like the beauty and the unknown, the beauty and the disgusting. As much as we hate to say disgusting, like all the humanity that you see in the movie is just in these dark, shrouded rooms, the sewers, the storm basin, I think it's called, that goes out to the water, like, and then of course the lab itself, which we'll get into. Like that's where all the humanity is in the depths and the creeks and the underbellies.
Yeah, no, it really is. He really is like one of my favorite filmmakers working now, and there are so many things that I'm excited for. He's got his version of Frankenstein coming out, I believe this year or next year. This year with Oscar Isaac as Dr. Frankenstein and Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster, and Mia Goth as, I assume, the Bride of Frankenstein. But we'll see. It's a pretty stacked cast. Looking at it right here, fucking Lars Mikkelsen.
Oh yeah.
But with Shape of Water, so I guess we can kind of anything about the movie broadly you want to talk about before we kind of break into the plot more specifically?
I say let's jump in real quick. We've been gloating about Del Toro, which I could do for an hour.
We can talk about the specifics. So spoilers for people who haven't seen it. Go check it out. It's great. It's good.
Go see it right now.
It's worth your looking. It's 1962 during the Cold War. And what's her name? It doesn't say right there. Sally Hawkins plays Eliza Esposito, who works as a janitor at a secret laboratory. The movie opens up with this kind of little bit of a narration, which from Richard Jenkins, who plays her next door neighbor in the movie, Giles. And he's kind of talking about like, oh, the princess who lived underwater. Like, what can I tell you about her? And he, and like Pans, I feel like the biggest other movie of his that I made a connection to or rewatching this was Pan's Labyrinth, and like, yeah, it's a fucking fairy tale for adults.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of starts like that, like he's reading from a fairy tale book. We see her apartment as if it's drifted underwater, and then we just kind of see her morning routine in her apartment. She's making herself eggs. She's fucking jacking off in the water.
Yeah, just jumping right into the jacking off, dude. Like,
yeah, no, yeah. This movie also has a lot of sex in it for sure. Sex is an important theme, even, you know, just regardless of like her literally fucking a fish man. Like it's pretty central. And it's something that I feel like kind of it's something that I feel like is important with Michael Shannon's character, as far as like he. How do I put it? Like, I feel like ultimately what he wants, and I we'll kind of get into him later, is the kind of connection that he just is incapable of having, you know, like beyond just sex itself. But that's something. Right. But yeah, we get introduced to her. We see her building. It's beautiful. We see her arrive at work. We just kind of get a sense of her day. We meet Zelda, played by Octavia Spencer, and they're close. And what do you think about how this movie was set up and kind of these first few minutes of seeing her life?
Well, I think the biggest thing that they establish really well, which Del Toro always does, is the tone. It shows her as a character, just her isolation, just kind of her solo living. I mean, thematically with the egg itself, the egg being like, at least just the way I could interpret it is, it's just its own independent cell. Its own independent thing, its own independent life, and it kind of represents what she's going through, just locked in on her own. And when she gives it to the creature later on, that's her maybe passing it off, just saying, hey, this is, besides just nurturing the creature, more just like, hey, this is me, this is the love I can offer, like my own singular thing.
This is me sharing myself
with you. Yep, absolutely. But no, just you mentioned the movie theater. Oh my god, that first shot where it pans down from the top of her apartment when she's getting ready to the movie theater. But I think they're playing Cleopatra. Love me some Richard Burton. I think it's Richard Burton. I don't think I'm losing my mind. Love me some good old 1960s. Definitely not culturally appropriating the time period that it's in cinema. But go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, this theater and the fact that like you can even, there's cracks through her floors where you can hear it going. It's like, it made me think like, damn, I want to just fall asleep to the Criterion 24/7 like live stream channel, you know, just as far as like it just being, I don't know, just like having the kind of warmth of it below. It's really cool.
Hold on, did you say Criterion 24/7 live stream channel?
Yeah. Do you have Criterion? Do you have the Criterion channels? Streaming service?
I've got my friend's account, so by definition, yeah.
They have a feature on it's just like when you go to the homepage, it's called Criterion 24/7, and it's literally just, it's imitating it's just it is playing it is a live stream of a random movie or piece of content in their library, and it's just a constantly like it's random what's on. It's just like you can throw it on if you don't know what to watch, and it's one of those things. You know, it's funny. Tubi has a similar thing. A lot of like the smaller streaming services now all have this thing where like they're trying to repeat the feeling of cable, where it's like to kind of, I guess, like, you know, because you see people. This is kind of a little separate rant on, not even a rant on streaming, but like that's something that a lot of people complain about now, is the decision paralysis of like, there's so much to watch. Like, what do I want to fucking watch? And it's funny to me that now streaming services are trying to create this feature that harkens back to that literal thing that they tried to fix, and it's I don't know, it's that's a whole separate conversation about how we consume media right now, which we can have later if we want, but that's a whole can of worms.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, falling asleep to that would be fun. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, no, seeing her, yeah, no, we learn a lot about this character from the jump. Yeah, we see the scars on her neck, which come back later, and actually there's a fan theory / I wonder if Wikipedia explains it at the end when we get to it. But the scars on her neck are important. She's mute. She's not deaf. She communicates through sign language with her neighbor and through her coworker Zelda. The next thing that happens is we meet Colonel Richard Strickland, played by Michael Shannon, who we first encounter him. If I remember correctly, Eliza and Zelda are cleaning the lab. and Michael Shannon comes in with this big tank. Michael Shannon and fucking Michael Stuhlbarg as a Dr. Hofstadter, who honestly a character I did not appreciate nearly as much the first time I saw it, because he's fucking amazing in this movie.
Dude, Michael Stuhlbarg's 2017, 2018 was one for the ages. Like,
yeah, dude.
That, Call Me By Your Name, Arrival the next year. The dude, he had his Stuhlbarg-assance, if we will.
He was great. It's funny too. Is like I rewatched all the Men in Black movies for the Men in Black episode, and I don't know. Have you seen Men in Black 3? He's in Men in Black 3. And he has a pretty big role as this like alien guy who can see the future or whatever, and like he's great in that. So no, I want to see like him do. He plays probably one of the more complex characters in this movie for sure. Which we'll get kind of more to him later as we go. But we get introduced to Michael Shannon. He's a fucking asshole. Eliza has a connection with this creature through the tank or whatever. I think at first she just kind of like sees his hand. Like we get like a little bit of like the slow alien-esque reveal. Like at first we see like a little bit of a hand, and then we see an arm and the eyes, and it kind of like in this sequence it kind of evolves into this this full shot of Eliza looking at the creature in this tank, full body, and we see the whole thing, and she's immediately turned on by him.
Oh, it's immediate. Just my bathtub's not the only thing that's wet. All right, hopping in, let's go.
Yeah, and I guess this is a good point to talk about. Simultaneously, we can kind of cover both of these. What do you think about the Amphibian Man's design, and how do we feel about Michael Shannon's character in this? And another thing that kind of happens in this little period is the scene where he comes into the bathroom, washes his hand, then pees, and then there's like, oh yeah, you either do one or the other. It's a sign of a man's weakness or whatever.
It's a sign of a man's weakness to touch his wang once or twice before he urinates. That's the thing I don't understand, because he washes his hands before he pees, but he doesn't touch his wiener while he's peeing.
I guess it's a thing where it's like, well, if I touch my penis with my clean hands, then my dick isn't dirty, so I don't have to clean them. But now you got dick hands running around everywhere.
It's good. Oh man, what's worse, dick hands or touching your dick with dirty hands? I'm trying to think about probably the latter, right?
That's a good point. The answer is you wash your hands both fucking times if your hands are dirty and covered in fishman blood, like presumably as like why he wants to wash his hands. But yeah, what do you think of the Amphibian Man's design, like when we kind of see him fully and like just in general?
Again, man, it's a Del Toro classic, dude. Funny enough, it's the second Doug Jones scaly man fish. He's also the what's the name of the Dr. Fish guy in the Hellboy movies?
Abe Sapien.
Abe Sapien. It's a second scaly man fish for Del Toro. It's phenomenal. Just there's something about just the melding of the physical and the CGI that has always been something he's been exceptional at, but this one specifically, especially with the detail, the scales, just the organic nature of like the gills moving and the scales moving, but also the way that when the character like glows up and the healing properties come out, it's really unique too, at least for a movie like this where the design is this detailed, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean it really is a great looking suit as far as, and I was I have this movie on Blu-ray, and I was watching the behind the scenes after I finished rewatching, and what's cool about like the glowing effect is that, and I legitimately thought that it was LEDs, but they just use like black light paints and some like clever color direction to really make him look like he's actually glowing.
Oh, no way, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just like clever stuff with like black light paint. And then as far as there's a little bit of CGI enhancement around mostly like the upper face, like the eyes and stuff, which is a thing where it's like, this is the closest thing I can think about a complaint to this, and this is something that like I remember thinking back in the day, but now I kind of have a clearer thing, and it's to do with how the performance of this creature comes across. I feel like it's the way that they design this character's eyes and like a lot of his facial features. It's hard for me to read emotions and intention as clearly as I think they want to have. Like, it's not a thing where it's like he doesn't necessarily. It's not that he necessarily doesn't look human enough, as far as like I don't need him to have a more human face in order for him to. I just feel like I can't read the emotions on his face. Like the way his eyes are designed don't give me that as much as I need, beyond just like him being scared or angry. Like there are scenes where he's like, it's mostly in the scenes where like we see him being more intimate with Eliza's character, and like towards the end when he's hanging out with Richard Jenkins, he just kind of has this blank look that I think is supposed to represent kind of curiosity, but like it's a thing where it's like, I don't know, I kind of felt like a little bit there was a little bit too much distance for getting into the head of this character necessarily, and there might be something more like they might want it to really feel like, you know, he's very animalistic in that way, but there's just like a thing where it's like it didn't let me into their relationship as much, and it's a thing where it's like it's hard because for me it's more about how this creature makes her feel and makes her feel complete and all that. Yeah. And also, I'm not going to kink shame. You know, you want to fuck a fish man? Fuck a fish man.
Oh, she fucks a fish man, dude. She doesn't need your you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, you know, like, who's it going to hurt? You know, especially with the, and I guess I'm going to say this now just because I think it's important to also me kind of accepting, so there's a fan theory. I don't even know if you call it a fan. It's just like an interpretation of this plot where, so, spoiling the end of the movie right now, just talking about it real quick. She gets gills at the end of the movie. She's shot, and the fish man heals her neck, and the scars on her neck transform into gills. And the theory is that basically she is like already a fish person, because her backstory, Zelda says her backstory early on in the movie, like to Michael Shannon, like, oh, why can't you talk about her? She's like, oh, they found her by the river as a baby, and she had those scars on her neck since she was a baby.
Oh, no shit. And, okay.
Like, they say that in the movie, insinuating that, like, so basically there's an insinuation that, like, that's why she loves water so much, and why she has to fucking jack off in water, is that she has already been a fish person, and she has these latent fish people gills and lungs and shit, and the fish man just like activated them basically at the end, and that is also a key into why she's so attracted to this creature, because she genetically like is that similar to him, and like that's something that like also makes me accept a little bit more, like, well, she's some kind of fish creature anyway, so
well, maybe that could explain the muteness, because she's been a mute since birth, the vocal cords and or just lack of vocal cords, at least the vocal structure is different. But
yeah, had you heard that theory before?
I had not. I like that theory a lot. I think it lines up. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it fills in some holes in the movie. But yeah, I've been ranting. I want your opinion about the relationship between her and the creature in this movie. I just kind of said my whole piece. Well, I want to know how it affected you.
I was thinking about that all the way, like getting ready for this podcast, and just generally, it's just very sweet. I know it's probably just the simplest way to put it, but there's something so wholesome about seeing Eliza go fuck a fish, dude. I don't know what it is, but it feels very genuine. I mean, like both of them being oppressed in their different ways, both oppressed very differently by Michael Shannon's character, but seeing them come together and support each other, and both leading to each other's escape, like physically, the fishman's escape, but also Sally Hawkins's character escape from her workforce, from her institution in a lot of ways, and eventually back to her freedom as well.
Yeah, no, they it definitely is a thing where, like, you know, the fact that like neither of them speak during their scenes where they're alone, but you can just tell exactly like what they're communicating to each other, like their body language, and especially Sally Hawkins's performance with like just her face and her eyes, like really sells everything that's going on. Like, she's fucking fantastic. Was she nominated for Best Actress for this?
She got a Best Actress nomination.
Okay, she didn't win.
She didn't win. She did. Richard Jenkins got a Best Supporting Actor nomination. Trying to remember who else. Guillermo got the win for director.
Oh, hell yeah.
But my guy Michael Stuhlbarg, dude. After watching this movie, man, his character is, in my opinion, he's like the most interesting character of the whole movie. Because there's like a balance of the humanity of just being a scientist and actually appreciating the creature for what he is and how much he can benefit the world around him, but also being a Soviet plant, a Soviet bug, like also with their own nefarious goals for the creature. And seeing him kind of come to terms with that, like dealing with his nationality, but also dealing with his love for science. It's a very dynamic character, and you learn so much about him, but also a bunch of other characters too, despite the minimal screen time. Pretty much all around great. Sorry about my Michael Stuhlbarg tangent.
No, it's all good. Like I want to cover the. Yeah, no, he's definitely a really cool guy. Like he's a scientist he's just like a good guy at his core. Like his whole thing. People listening is that he is a Russian scientist who is like undercover, trying to like basically steal the amphibian man or steal information about the fish man from the Americans, because this is Cold War times, like the space race is going on, and like there's all these tensions, and he's doing this for the love of science and for the love of like trying to like learn more and like trying to expand and learn. But even his Michael Shannon is a dick and like fucking doesn't care about this creature and is torturing it, and then the Russians are like, we don't fucking care. Like there's a line in here that really kind of just sums up, like, how do I put it? Just one of those things where like you think about our current political space and how like it's really just all the same kind of mentality. Like the Russian his Russian boss basically says orders Michael Stuhlbarg to kill the creature, and his Russian boss goes like we don't need to learn, we just need the Americans not to learn.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole thing of like an eye for an eye. Like it just and Michael Stuhlbarg just like really just being for like he's just for the outcasts and the outsiders.
Yeah.
And speaking of other characters, like we should get into, which we haven't even mentioned yet, let's talk about Giles, Richard Jenkins, who he is fucking incredible in this movie.
I was gonna say he's the heart of the movie, but every character feels like the heart of the movie in different ways.
Yeah.
But you mentioned him being the narrator at the beginning of the story. I saw him as the audience stand-in in the movie.
Absolutely.
Granted, his character has a tremendous arc too, especially towards the end. But
yeah, he could have his own fucking movie, really, like this character.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
And he has so many opportunities to shine in this movie. His performance. I mean, the bartender, not the bartender, the restaurant hand who
the diner, the busboy,
who's definitely not a good person.
Pie guy.
We'll call him Pie Guy.
He's credited as Pie Guy on Wikipedia. my I don't know why I'm looking, my screen share isn't working for you.
Is he actually Pie Guy?
He's credited as Pie Guy. I should be sharing my screen, but it's not. I'm looking, it's not showing up for you. I'm gonna try to fix it. But he's credited as Pie. Sorry, continue, Jack. He's credited as Pie Guy.
He's credited as Pie Guy, and he gives the scene as he gives pie like for 1 second, and then immediately berates people of color coming into the bar, and then also yells at him for putting his hand. Yeah, Pie is a very interesting title for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he is Pie Guy. 1 second, I want to try to share the wiki. Safari window, shape of water. There we go. Yep, see, Pie Guy.
Oh wow, you weren't kidding. Just Pie Guy. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, Giles is basically he's gay man in the 60s, and it's all the difficulties like relating to that. He has a crush on this busboy at the diner, who he like is trying to kind of feel out, and then once he reveals himself immediately, he's like, you get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. This is a family restaurant. And
something I kind of realized that's cool about Giles's character in this movie, and how he relates with Eliza. It's cool because basically Eliza, we see scenes where Eliza is interacting with Giles, where she's interacting with Zelda and interacting with the fish creature, and a lot of it is like, I think through Giles we get the most of like Eliza's voice necessarily, like their interactions and their conversations. Like I love the scene where and it's almost like it's the Oscar scene of the movie, quote unquote, but like
I know exactly what you're talking about, where she's like talking about the importance of him, and
she asks him to speak what she's signing to him.
Yep.
Like be my voice, basically. And as she's signing to him and he's kind of saying, like, repeating what she's saying, you know, he's able to deliver. Not only do you feel her emotions and her sympathy, you, as he's talking, you see him getting broken down by what she's telling him, and like you hear kind of like his reaction to what she's saying and how he relates to it, and like they, you know, this character just has so much heart, and he brings so much of a voice, and the fact that he's such a well-written character as like an artist. Oh yeah. You know, and how he draws, like, which by the way, my prop is gonna be any fucking painting that he does, any sketch he does of the fish man and her. Actually, I like the one he does of the fish man in the bathtub. Oh,
that one's great. But yeah, that's actually I like that you bring up the subplot of him as the artist, because his like they both have both the lead character. I'm gonna call him a lead character too, even though it's Eliza's movie. But he also, like, they both have their shared frustrations. But it kind of shows the creative process that he's just obstructed by factors both in and out of his control. And you gotta think about the 50s, that time period where just there was so much going against his character. Like, it was the Red Scare, obviously the 50s, so people, the gay people aren't really favored very heavily.
They are not believed to be exist.
Yeah.
People would see him as the fish man.
So when so when he makes his turn to going from like, oh, we can't house him, we can't get him out, this is illegal, it's incredibly believable. Like, that turn, it's like there's not a shroud of doubt, and that he just would immediately go to support Eliza with this very dangerous choice to get him out.
Absolutely, yeah, and I love, there's a lot of little moments with him too. Like, I love his. I agree with you as far as the audience character goes, like how he kind of reacts and talks about the situation. He's like, we're gonna synchronize our watches like in the movies. He also, now that I'm thinking about it, he brings most of the humor in the movie too.
Oh yeah.
Or as far as like a lot of the, like, him and Octavia Spencer both like bring, but his reaction when he first sees the creature come out of the fucking towels, he's like, oh my god,
it's a scaly manfish.
You know, and then like he's looking at him and he crashes the car, like, oh, he's so beautiful. You know, and just a really cool guy. We kind of been like jumping around the plot, but to basically, they break the amphibian man out of prison. It's an important thing to know that the government has decided they're gonna dissect the fish man. So Eliza busts him out. Dr. Hofstadter helps her because he's just on the side of righteousness. We're the kind of middle. I'd say the way this movie is kind of divided is pretty much like around the beginning of the second act is her busting the fish man out of prison, and the bulk of like kind of the middle-ish of this movie is the fish man in her apartment. They start to, like, their relationship starts to get to, you know, the physical place. And then also we get some nice scenes between, like I just been talking about. I like the little scenes between Giles and the fishman, like the one where he's painting him in the bathtub, and Giles is just talking to the fishman about, like, you know, like, aging and just like his purpose in life, you know.
Yeah.
I think that something I've seen some of the people who dislike this movie have complained about is they feel like the characters are like one-dimensional, and that they're thin.
I don't agree with that at all. I think almost every single character in this movie is very flushed out, very, very dynamic. Everybody has their own little arc going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes to, like, I kind of understand what they say as far as, like, on paper, every character kind of has, like, the thing they're defined by. Like, it's the gay guy, she's a black woman, or Michael Shannon, like, he's the racist white guy, you know. But I think the actors really do I think everyone in this movie is perfectly cast, and I think that everyone brings absolutely every bit of nuance and depth out of these characters, that which they are still, like, even though they might be, like, as far as, like, their stories, like, they have kind of one thing going on, they're still extremely well defined, and, like, very memorable. And I think Giles is, after watching it, Giles is probably my favorite character in this movie, now that I think about it. But yeah, busting out of prison. Michael Shannon's fingers rotting throughout this movie is a great thing that we kind of keep resurfacing too. Like, I remember every scene where he's on, you see that it's like hurting him more. He's taking more painkillers and shit.
To the point where he just rips it off when he's interrogating Octavia Spencer towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's just fucking nasty, and just like when he's having sex with his wife and his hand, like,
Oh,
just,
god damn that whole. Also, like, let's talking about Michael Shannon's family a little bit is just the idyllic, or just the juxtaposition of his pretty much miserable existence, and all things considered, he has a good idyllic American, or at least
He-
50s American existence. Like, he's
he's.
nuclear
Sorry, go ahead.
nuclear family, 1950s. He bought a brand new Cadillac for the man in the modern age.
Mhm.
He fucks his wife.
Mhm.
He owns a house. I can't think of any friends of mine that currently own a house. So good job, Michael Shannon.
I feel like for his big boy government position, he'd have a bigger house in the '60s. But go on.
Yeah, but no, it's interesting, just like taking this character that really should have it all, and in a way does, but just kind of fitting the mold of that like nuclear family, like the American man in the 50s or 60s, like defined by this masculinity. Especially, he talks his relationship with the general is really interesting in that sense, because he
Mhm.
talks a lot about like how he's known the general for 13 years, and he references a lot of war stories. Like, this whole era was defined by this war torn or post-war America, like post World War
Mhm.
II environment. So you can see how he has zero humanity towards this creature, as well as a
Yeah.
lot of the other people in the movie, the general as well.
Yeah, I think that his character has a lot of, how do I put it? Has a lot of long, because you can see that he's not happy.
Yeah,
Like in that first scene where we see his family, his 2.5 kids in the, in the house, and the housewife waiting for him. You can just see in his face that he kind of has this feeling of like, that you can tell that, one, it's not what he really desires, and also like there's this sense of like, yeah, it's not. I think there are two ways you can read it. It's a sense of like he's not getting what he wants, and part of it might just be the fact that like maybe it's just that he's a psychopath, that like what he wants in life is to just like treat people like shit and to hurt people.
yeah,
Is like one way that you can read it, as far as like he, like, the way he has sex with his wife, even, he's like he's he's like, nope, I want silence from you, silence. And part of it is like his kind of weird sick attraction with, towards like Eliza or whatever, and he tells her, like, I don't mind that, you can't talk, like, I like it,
I can make you scream.
do you squeal, type thing.
Just
but,
goes full blown deliverance on it.
oh yeah, no, yeah, squeal, picky, yeah, no, he goes, he's just really creepy. But something with it, you could also read it as and something that like I kind of read in that is that I think that what he sees in Eliza, and sees like in, I think what it is, he's craving like something about I think what it is ultimately, he's craving validation from somebody. In the case of this movie, it's specifically the general, like you said, like their interesting relationship. He's craving, like, he's doing all the things that he's been taught that he's supposed to do.
Yeah,
He works his government position. He's being like a good American, like the most I was saying, but he's still not happy in his life, and he wants somebody to like tell him that, like, he's worthy, he's worth it, that like he has like a good purpose in life. And I think ultimately, I think like what it really is attracted to in Eliza is seeing like there's a person who actually has like something inside of them that is more than just doing your job.
right.
Seeing that, like, I think what he craves, like, he wants something more out of life, and why he is being a dick is just kind of like the toxic output of him being unsatisfied. Like, he's unsatisfied, and nothing about his environment tells him like a healthy way to react beyond just like being an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah.
And torturing other people. And I think that there is a lot more depth with that. But like, yeah, no, those are those two ways to read it. Guillermo Del Toro in the behind the scenes says something interesting as far as like he is if this was like in the 30s, like the old school monster movie, he would
be the hero. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, no, everyone's great in this movie. Talking a little bit about, we can kind of just talk about the last act of this movie as shit kind of hits the fan. The plan is that Eliza is going to release the fish man into the waters when heavy rain comes, and the what's it called, the levees rise, or like the bay rises,
The levee breaks. Yeah.
And he can swim out to the ocean. Around this time, Strickland, Michael Shannon, catches Dr. Hofstadter talking, like going to meet with the Russians in what is a fucking gross, like not gross, like
I'd say pretty gross.
He gets shot in the so Dr. Hofstadter gets shot in the face and he's got a hole in his mouth, and Michael Shannon fucking drags him by his mouth hole. And is like, this guy's riddled with bullets, and Michael Shannon is just poking at his bullet holes and is basically like, you're going to tell me what's going on or I'm going to torture you, like, and make your death slow. And it's just a really intense scene. And Michael Shannon is just like on a fucking mission to hunt down this creature, basically because his bosses told him, like, yeah, like, you know, you got to do this type deal.
Yep. And I like the tie-in for the Red Scare era, like of the 50s and 60s, because for the previous few scenes when they're talking about who likely broke out the amphibian man from the base was just like a squadron of like 5 to 10 Soviet soldiers. Even in reality, it was just a couple of workers at the plant. He immediately asks him, like, where's the rest of your crew? Where's the rest of the squadron, the Soviet squadron? And he just giggles, saying, oh, it was literally 2 fucking workers, dude.
Yeah, no, like, you underestimate, you know, it's about the people that you don't pay attention to because you don't count them as like real people or threats. You know,
it's just a deconstruction of that era too, a little bit, because it's basically like, well, these aren't the real bad guys, like, or I guess in Michael Shannon's view, bad guys. They're not the real threats. Like, you keep painting the Soviets in this context as the villains, but you're just missing the ones that are right in front of you that are actually swaying you away from your objective.
Yeah, the ones that are like ruining. Yeah, like he's the fact that he's underestimating and like not properly, like he doesn't respect Eliza and you know, these people who are the outsiders of society. He doesn't respect them because society tells him not to respect them. You know, it's a real underdog story.
Hell yeah. And even in the scene where he's like interrogating the 2 characters, he says, why am I interviewing the fucking help? Like,
yeah,
he just doesn't give a shit.
He just dismisses them. Yeah, no, it's fucked up. But yeah, and then the scene where I forgot how intense the scene was when Michael Shannon rolls up on Octavia Spencer's house, on her and her husband, and he just rolls it. He's like, "Where is it?" Like, not even like, just no bullshit. Like, where is it? And he finishes the story of Samson, which that was a whole thing that was brought up earlier. He's a big Bible guy. He's constantly quoting Bible verses, and he finishes the story of Samson to Delilah, which like her name is based on, and that's when he rips off his fingers and throws it in the living room.
Oh god,
intense scene.
It gave me shades of that scene in Pan's Labyrinth we talk about, where the guy with the little eyes on his face, he like bites the head off of the fairies. Like, just that crunch, and that just like this blood splattering. It's just so intimate and disgusting. It just gave me them early Del Toro vibes.
Yeah, no, the sound design is just it's great. Like, he's really good at making visceral. Even going back as early as something like Mimic, which we did a Mimic episode on the show here, a quick one, a short one with me and Joseph. It was like a quick one, and same thing with that one too. The kills in that movie are brutal. Have you seen Mimic?
I have not. No.
Mimic's a fun one. It's a fun monster movie about giant cockroaches in New York. Yeah. So the end of this movie, the amphibian man. Eliza gets tipped off by Zelda that Strickland's coming, so they rush the amphibian man down to the river. We get a nice little. I like his like final interaction with Giles, because a little thing we skipped over. The amphibian man has powers. He cuts Giles's arm, and then he does the glow, the Mr. Miyagi fire glow thing to his arm and to his head, and he rubs his head too. And Giles is a balding guy, but he makes some of his hair grow back, and he heals Giles' arm. So when Giles says goodbye, he takes the fishman's hand and puts it on his head.
Back on his head one more time
to try to grow more hair. And then I love the amphibian man. He puts his head towards Giles for him to rub his head, and they have a cute little goodbye. I really like. The little moments between him and this fish, and this is something that like helps the fishman as like a character, like seeing him as an intelligence to be respected, is these little moments where like Giles has the connection with the creature beyond something like a sexual romantic one is just really cute, and I like that little goodbye. And then, Eliza has a sad goodbye where the fishman, does the sign language, like, "Oh, will you and me together?" And she's like, "Nah."
Nah.
Um,
Goodbye, baby.
Goodbye. And then, um, what's it called? Strickland shows up, knocks Giles out, shoots the fishman, shoots Eliza. Seemingly he's won. And then the fishman using his fishman powers. Oh yeah. Strickland gets knocked out by Giles. The fishman heals himself. He's glowing. He rises up in like a real the trailer shot where he kind of like has this like big I just this stance is burned in my brain mostly because in the behind the scenes there's this like great moment where Doug Jones this might be this impression. Doug Jones is talking about what Guillermo told him, how he wants him to play this character, and Guillermo Del Toro apparently said to Doug Jones, he's like, "You played Silver Surfer. Well, this guy, he's like, you're a Silver Surfer, but also a matador." Like the way they find their center, very masculine, very strong. And I could totally see that in this stance.
Not gonna lie, I think you said this exact same thing during the Pan's Labyrinth review, so it's gotta be true.
He played Silver Surfer.
It was a matador.
Yeah, but I want to see them bring. Well, actually, no, they already announced that they're the new Silver Surfer is going to be female, which I'm sure is going to make the internet mad.
Well, I'm already triggered. Have a good night, Elsie. You got me.
You gotta go. Fuck. The Fantastic Four trailer is coming out tomorrow. Actually.
Oh shit! Actually.
They did. Yeah, they released like a 10-second. It was a nothing teaser. They basically released like a little 10-second thing that basically said Fantastic Four trailer tomorrow. Good Morning America. So it'll drop in the morning.
Damn.
Hopefully, I won't. I work at 10, and I'm hoping it drops like well before then, so I can fully nerd out on it. But anyway. Back to this. So the fishman heals himself, stands up, all cool like. He goes over to Strickland. Strickland's like, "Oh shit, you really are a god," and he cuts Strickland on the neck, real gruesome, and watches him die. Pretty hardcore. And then he goes over to Eliza's body, picks her up, and brings her into the water. And I talked about this earlier. Giles and Zelda are looking over the water. The fishman opens her gills, which, like I said, so looking at Wikipedia, it says when he applies his healing powers to the scars on Eliza's neck, they open to reveal gills like his, reviving her. So I think from this,
I like that to reveal gills. Like,
yes, the reveal makes it feel like they were already gills, which adds on to this like kind of. And they insinuated early on, and like I said, like the dropping little hints, her found by the river, the fact that she already is part of this, like a hybrid or a spinoff of this fish race, which tracks, and it's a happy ending. Although I guess the sad thing is like we never really know if Giles and Zelda think that she's dead. Like the fishman takes her body. Like I always think, like, do you think he's gonna like eat her or something?
Just like, well, she was gonna die anyways. Well, at least he got seconds.
And happy ending. I like the ending. I mean, it's Guillermo's fairy tale kind of ending. It reminds me of, once again, it kind of reminds me of the Pan's Labyrinth ending, where it's a little bit like, up to your interpretation kind of thing of like how much of it kind of happened. And what do you think of the ending?
I love it. It's so, honestly, just seeing movies like this, like, it's so refreshing having a happy ending. I know I sound like a hopeless romantic when I say that, but like, God, there's just something about seeing just the two be happy swimming in the water, and all the water effects in this movie are amazing. I feel like that goes without saying.
Water looks gorgeous.
But yeah, that, and you can just, the weight is lifted off of their shoulders, and they're just floating aimlessly together, and I love it. I love this fucking movie, dude. This movie's got it. It's fucking got it, dude. Like,
yeah, no, it's got the sauce. It really is like it's timeless, but like it's the way that it takes kind of like these conventions, spins on its head. It's like a fairy tale. I would say that it's a story that, while for adults, I think anybody can, like, kind of see at least relate to one person, and like it's a very human movie.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it's great. I think I there's still a good amount of Guillermo's back films I have to watch, but honestly, this might be my very favorite of all of his movies.
It's definitely the one I enjoy the most watching.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like it maybe just because like there are other ones that I'm way more familiar with. I've watched the Hellboy movies so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Pacific Rim is a special place in my heart as far as like in high school that was my shit, but like Shape of it upon this rewatch, like it's just like, yeah, this movie is like just as strong as when I saw it back in 2017. And it wasn't a fact of like me not wanting to rewatch it. It's just like that's just how it ended up. And yeah, no, I'm excited to see his Frankenstein.
No, me too. I just feel kind of bad because I was talking about 2017, because I'm somewhat nostalgic for those movies now, because that was like the first full year you and I were like seeing movies together. So
Yeah.
and just the year was so stacked. Like it's unreal. Like going back to those movies, like I will watch Call Me by Your Name every year. I will watch Good Time every year. I think I got to add this one to the rotation.
Like I said, 2014 through I'm just gonna look up real quick 2015 Oscars. 2014 through I remember 2014 in particular being like particularly badass in terms of like, yeah, look at this list for 2014. Whiplash, Boyhood, Birdman all came out the same year. Fucking yeah, no, the golden era. Then again, that's not to say that like, I think there are great movies coming out now, but I do think that all of the great movies coming out now are the smaller indie dark. Like it's A24 and Neon pretty much.
Yeah.
Are the only ones putting out good shit right now, and I enjoy it. But I hope that like Shape of Water, for example, like impressively, Shape of Water had a reported budget of 20 million.
That's it.
That's it.
Holy shit.
He did a lot with it, but even then, like that, thinking about like a lot of the more popular movies now. Or like some of the newer movies now, like Love Lies Bleeding is my favorite movie of last year, and like what was the reported budget on that, which I still really want to do an episode on. Yeah, let's see. The budget is not listed, but I think if I remember, it's more like in the realm of like 8 to 10 million, which is even high for now. I want good movies to get higher budgets. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, I mean we're in the death of the middle budget super movie, like the 40-50 million dollar budget, just movies that make a grand statement. Oscars, like either like you see a little bit of resurgence. You'll still occasionally see like this is a really good example, like just the 1 or 2 movies every year, but gone are the days where you just see these ad nauseum. Now it's just the mega budget movies or the Love Lies Bleeding, the ones that barely crack $10 million.
Exactly. No, yeah. There's great art, but I want to see great art kind of get funded more. Like even looking at like a lot of these like super small. Like Anora was super small budget. I think $6 million. Yeah. Anora.
Loved that movie too.
Yeah, Anora was pretty good. I wanted to watch it. Did you see it has Anora is getting a Criterion release.
Yep, I saw that.
And one second, Anora Criterion. I wasn't huge on Anora. This isn't an Anora episode. Anorga. Whoops. Angora. Anora Criterion. I wasn't huge on the movie, but I will say that the Criterion, the cover's got lost sauce. That's got
at least 2 sauces.
Yeah, it's a pretty saucy cover. But anyway, let's talk about.
No, I don't want to. I don't want
We're
to.
Done.
Stop it. No.
We won't spend as much time on it. Let's talk about a different movie. Instead of a fish man, it's a fish woman, a siren, a narf.
This movie fucking sucks, dude. This movie fucking
Shyamalan.
sucks.
Jack, what do you think about M. Night Shyamalan? What are some of his other movies you're familiar with?
Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
No, I do like M. Night. I like the first couple movies in his catalog. Unbreakable, I really saw. We've talked about The Sixth Sense a lot.
Yep.
I still need to rewatch Signs. I never remember hating it. I know you really like Signs.
Signs is one of my favorite movies. I think it's in my Letterboxd 4, actually.
Damn, shit. I knew you really liked it, so I wanted to give it another shot. And then the one that really caught me is it was one of the first movies you and I saw in theaters together was Split.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, Split's great.
Split fucks. And then besides that, I saw the next movie was, what was the name of? It was Glass, right? And that one was
Glass.
That one was pretty mid. The Happening's really funny, but that one's mean to death. I
Take
don't
an interest in science.
science. It's because your face is perfect. There's
You like hot dogs?
There's a lot of weird. Some of his movies. There's a lot of weird adults and child kind of teenager stuff. Well, I'm gonna talk about that too with this fucking movie. But yeah, no, M. Night. He doesn't have like the staying power as like a Tommy Wiseau or Neil Breen or in terms of because you know that the talent's there, but there's like the self-seriousness too that I sometimes can't get over. In this one, it definitely kind of shows, but he's probably a nice guy.
He thinks it's the shit for sure. Yeah, as far as like him as a guy, like it's just there's a really good there's a French channel on YouTube called Kobini, which they do these videos called Video Club, and they're very similar to the format of Criterion Closet, where like they'll bring in an actor or director or whatever to basically walk through a video store and kind of talk about some of their favorite movies. And there's a Shyamalan one, and I love watching that video because you just get to see him splurge about how much he loves movies, and that's really what it is with Shyamalan with me. Like, okay, here's the thing: the man always swings for the fences.
Yeah,
like I think that there's some fundamental things about acting and dialogue and human communication.
Go on, keep going.
That he doesn't necessarily get, but it does not let people around him like limit what he's gonna do. Like if he has an idea about something, he's gonna fucking see it through, even if it is ridiculous. And I do think, as far as like I will say this with Shyamalan, and this is legitimate as far as like what I think he's better at. I think when it comes to horror and thriller and suspense and tension, his movies that are more based around horror I think are his strongest, because I think as far as like him as a filmmaker, I think his strongest things are I think the strongest things he does is he does understand how to build suspense and to build tension. Like a lot of like Signs, you have seen Signs, but like the scenes at the end of the movie when the aliens are surrounding the house, and like a lot of it is just based around the sound design. Like they're inside the living room and the aliens are walking around the perimeter of the house, like on the porch outside, and the camera is following inside the house, and you just hear the footsteps of the aliens. You hear the dog getting killed by the alien and stuff, and like there's a amazing reveal shot at the end where like he rolls like a CRT TV around the corner. And you see the reflection of the alien in the background, and just it just jumps at you. But then, like, in his other movies, we talk about like Split and Old, like same thing. I think he's strongest as a horror guy. Yeah, like as a horror and thriller guy. And I think Lady in the Water is more of him trying to make like a fantasy movie, like kind of is him trying to make. Ironically enough, we talk about like how Guillermo Del Toro loves fairy tales. Lady in the Water is literally like, this is a fairy tale story, and these creatures and things are something that he made up to tell his daughters, like as like bedtime stories, like all the things in this movie. And he decided to make a movie of these bedtime stories that he would tell his kids,
and then insert himself in the movie as one of the like creators. What's his? He's a fucking writer in the movie, right?
Yeah, he's a writer. I don't remember the character's name.
Oh my god.
He's a writer who's writing this book that's just like his thoughts on the world and politics and stuff. Vic is his character's name.
God damn it.
But yeah, so like overall, we're not gonna necessarily break down it'd be harder to, but like as far as what people need to know about what this movie is about, just to kind of,
you gotta take this one, man. I got no idea.
I'm really just gonna summarize the first paragraph here. Really kind of puts it together. So this movie had a budget of $70 million budget for this movie, $20 million budget for Shape of Water.
Well, that's because they built a fucking apartment complex for this movie.
Yeah, just damn.
Did you wait? Can we talk about that for a sec? Did you know that?
I didn't know that they built the whole apartment building.
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty sure it's like in this article. Apparently, they built the apartment complex for this movie. Hold on, let me look this up real quick.
Let's see, where sets for the apartment complex and half-city block of row houses were built. Yeah, so yeah, they did basically build this apartment set.
Why wouldn't you just go to like Florida?
Go to Florida, find a cheap motel. You could dress it up a bit.
Just literally go to Florida. They got pools there. Just like go find a motel in Florida, paint the walls or some shit, and there you go.
Yeah. But yeah. Basically, yeah. So Paul Giamatti plays Cleveland Heap, who is he's the super of this ratty apartment complex. There's a big pool in the middle of the complex, and this complex is full. I was watching a court, and they were like, "Why is it just freaks in the apartment?" And there's like just a bunch of weird characters. There's a guy, Reggie, who fucking only works out one jacked arm, one half of his body he works out. There's like a film critic who's just moving in, who is only in this movie for M. Night Shyamalan to talk shit about film critics.
Back to our boy Reggie real quick. I was like just dicking around on Google looking up memes for this movie, and it was an IMDb picture of his character, like whatever the actor's name was, and it was that Quagmire scene where he discovers internet porn. He's like pointing.
Yeah, Peter, I gotta go back inside.
He's pointing. This fucking movie breaks my brain, dude. What's the name of the woman? It's like the older woman that lets her in and starts talking about like her husband's like butt cyst.
Oh yeah, I forget her name. Mrs. Bell. No, Mrs. Bell is like the Miss Bubchick.
Miss Bubchick.
Miss Bubchick.
Who lets in a plumber and just immediately starts ranting about her husband's asshole, like the TSA ladies from that one South Park episode. Excuse me, I need to check your asshole.
Paul Giamatti is so involved in all of these people's lives.
He's
like,
if anything, he's like good at his job, I guess. But
I suppose like all these people, like he does have solid relationships with all these weird relationships with all these people. Like I remember just a little thing that bothered me. Just so many weird. He's walking by the apartment where I guess there's just like seven smoker men, 7 men who do nothing but smoke cigarettes.
I'm pretty sure their names are like literally smoker, like in the.
Oh yeah, they're credited as like smoker 1, smoker 2.
Oh no, fuck.
In the credits, but like literally these 7 men, and like they have the giant ashtray outside their apartment, and Paul Giamatti picks up the ashtray. Like at the beginning when the critic is moving in, I'm like, what are you doing with that? Why'd you pick it up? Like, are you gonna like empty it for him and bring it back? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
He needs to season his empanadas when he gets back to his room with a little bit of flavor.
I suppose. But sorry, I want to get to. So he's a super of this building. There's been some weird happenings in the pool. The pool filter is getting fucked. He thinks that somebody is swimming in the pool at night. Mm-hmm. And then one night he's out there trying to catch the person in the pool. I think he gets knocked out by a fucking scrunt or whatever, by a grass wolf, which we'll get to later.
Oh god.
But he gets knocked out somehow, and then he wakes up, and Bryce Dallas Howard, who is a pale, moist woman.
Don't say that.
The eponymous lady in the water, out of the water, is in his house. And she whispers all of her lines.
What's her name, LC? What's her name?
Her name is Story.
Fuck you.
The character's name is Story in this storybook film.
I think there's also one that when she says her name, it's like the most abrupt, hard cut to her face ever. And
Story.
My name's Story. Like, shut up. Ugh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not like this movie. I'm really sorry.
Well, no, I don't like it either. It's as far as like it's The Happening is a good bad movie, mm-hmm. in my opinion. Like The Happening is a lot of fun. Like I'll rewatch The Happening. I'll make fun of it. This movie, I think for the most part, is just really nonsense. It's weird, but not really weird in like a fun way.
No, it's not. It's up its own ass too in a lot of ways. Besides of the obvious insertion of our guy M Night, but also
Yeah.
the critic character, the one that can predict anything.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most embarrassing scene I've seen in a long time is the one where he confronts the
creature.
creature. That's of course the end of the movie, so we'll talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we don't have to go through this one. This one's harder to go through scene by scene. I think, more or less, we can just kind of because I think the whole middle of this movie is The whole middle of this movie is Paul Giamatti trying to put together the mythos of story and the narfs, because so basically it's most of his information he gets from this character Young Soon Choi, who is a Korean student at the university. What university? We don't know.
At the university.
And
it's like Tommy Wiseau in The Room. I'm a banker at the bank.
yeah. Young Soon Choi and her mother basically fill him in on it's an old story, like Eastern story. There's the narf, so Bryce Dallas Howard is a narf, which is basically she's a mermaid. They say she's a siren, a sea nymph or whatever. She's a fucking mermaid. And all of the backstory they get about basically I think a lot of it is just how stupid the names are.
I just think the interesting thing is, for a movie that spends the whole time trying to develop the mythos of these creatures, there is not a lot of mythos to these creatures.
No.
That you learn.
Yeah, they come from the blue world. Long story short is that the Scrunts are these wolves that have grass instead of fur, and I think it's a thing where it's if at night they come out and they try to get her. They try to kill her, get her, or whatever, make her blonde. She comes back as Story the White at the end with her blonde hair. But try to get her. But there's this story. It's this thing where it's all of the people in the apartment complex have a role to play. There's this whole thing of it's this legend. It's this fairy tale where there are these people. There's the guardian, there's the healer, there's the guild, all these, or there's the writer who's a prophet, which is M. Night Shyamalan's character, which is as far as his arrogance, it really shines in this because he cameos in M. Night Shyamalan cameos in most of his movies, and oftentimes he does give himself a pretty substantial role, even if it's not necessarily substantial in screen time. Most of the time, his characters always have a very important part of the story.
Yeah.
In Signs, his character Ray Reddy is his character Ray Reddy in Signs is the character that kills Mel Gibson's wife in a car accident.
Yeah.
He is the one, and his character, even though he's not on screen very long, they talk about him a lot. He is a very pivotal part in the story.
Mm-hmm. And
in this movie, he plays a writer who. Which, by the way, Bryce Dallas Howard can tell the fucking future or whatever whenever she wants, and she tells M. Night Shyamalan that
fuck this movie, dude. I'm sorry.
She tells M. Night Shyamalan, Vic, that this book that he's working on is going to inspire a young boy in the future. Who will learn his ideas and philosophies from this book and take these ideas and become a leader and eventually the president, and he's gonna create world peace from M. Night Shyamalan's writings. And it is, and I feel the whole time there's a commentary about I don't know if people are ready for what I have to say, and he's I'm gonna get killed for my ideas, and it really is.
That's 100% it. That's 100% it. The entire thing, because if you think about the context of this movie being him telling a story to his children, right? At the end of the movie, he's kids go to bed or whatever the fuck he tells them. The whole time, it's just him professing to the importance of this story and who's gonna hear it or who's gonna want to know it. It's basically singing "You Are My Sunshine" to my kids, to his kids or some shit at the end of the night. Just I don't want to think about it anymore.
I want to talk about the kid with the cereal box.
No, he's Jeffrey Wright's son, right?
Jeffrey Wright's son. So Jeffrey Wright,
no.
they need so one of the things, there's a character who's an interpreter who there's somebody who's supposed to interpret messages from God, because that's another thing too. God shows up. He's a very about guy. M. Night Shyamalan went to Catholic school, very clearly had an impact on him. because God is always a heavy theme in his movies. But basically, there's an interpreter who needs to interpret messages from God within the mundane, and they think it's Jeffrey Wright because he is really into his crossword puzzles. But it turns out it's Jeffrey Wright's son, who just is really into cereal boxes.
But he's also not good at his job.
The kid, yeah, no, he fucks it up.
He fucks it up. He's... Oh,
Uh,
God, I'm sorry. This is breaking my brain. Because where's the kid come from again? How does he know that his kid can read these signs?
well, they say that, like, Jeffrey Wright basically says, like, I don't think that I'm the interpreter. I think this is wrong. Well, it's because the first thing that Paul Giamatti does is that he follows what the critic is, because he goes to the critic to be like, hey, I need to find these people.
Yeah.
You know movies. What would people? How would I find these people if we were in a movie?
Mm-hmm.
And then he follows his advice, and he's wrong, because the Guild isn't really who it is.
Yeah.
The Guild, it turns out, is like the family of sisters or whatever. Because I think the Korean mother says, like, oh, in the story there are 7 sisters or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same thing with the interpreter. Like, oh, the interpreter is somebody who is going to, like, receive messages from whatever, and, like, the kid reads it from fucking cereal boxes. And talking about, like, this whole thing, and, like, yeah, it really is just, like, I don't necessarily know if it's a thing where, like, M. Night Shyamalan even knew exactly what he wanted, and I think when it came down to it, he wanted to create, like, some Bridge to Terabithia ass, like children's fantasy. Like, motherfucker was trying to create Harry Potter or, like, the Spiderwick Chronicles or some shit, like this whole hidden world of creatures thing. Like,
I think Spiderwick Chronicles is a pretty apt comparison.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the most successful version of this idea, but it's tough right now.
I don't want to think about anything success related with this movie. Holy shit!
I don't think he had a complete idea. I think he's like, I want to make something like this, and if I bring in, like, all these characters and I say all these fancy things and bring up all these, like, heavy themes, then people will just think that it's deep, when really it feels like it's just not very well thought out.
There's like no structure to the flow of actually getting to this mystery being solved. Like, my biggest, like, halfway through the movie, like all these characters just show up and accept this story. Like,
Yeah.
like, was there, like, correct me if I'm wrong, was there any moment where there was, like, a moment of believability for these characters to all be a part of this? Like, where everybody could just say, yeah, we're a part of it, screw it, we believe you, Paul Giamatti.
Not really.
Yeah.
People just kind of, like, just believe it at face value. Like, nobody really, I think one character, like, questions, like, what are we doing here? She needs to go to a hospital, but then that's squashed pretty quick. But yeah, I think fucking sorry, I'm looking at my my laptop is close to dying, so we're gonna wrap this up soon. But actually, one second, I'm worried it's gonna. Mind if I just literally it'll be like 30 seconds. Can I grab my charger real quick?
Sure. I'm gonna run to the bathroom, so I'll mute myself.
Oh, right, perfect.
Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm back if you're back too. I'll see you there. Hello. I hate this movie. I hate this movie. Lady in the Water sucks. Elsie, I hope you edit this out, but if you don't, I deserve any of the embarrassment I get online.
All right, still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool, rock and roll. Yeah, sorry, my right when I got back, my laptop gave me the plug your shit in
Gotcha.
warning. So he's trying to develop this mythology, this like whole kind of epic children's story fairy tale thing, and he's no Del Toro. I think how do I put this? I think stories that are this grand are just kind of far beyond his reach, which is tough for me to say. As far as like, I think that I think the last thing I kind of want to really put down as far as like putting this movie down is that I think Shyamalan works best when we have kind of a specific point.
Yeah.
Like or like when he kind of like in like a small, like he's good at like taking like a small idea and turning it into something like The Visit, which is like super. Did you see The Visit?
No, I didn't.
Super bare bones kind of like horror. It's a found footage. It's like it's the movie that just looking at his filmography real quick. It's the one that was like his comeback film. Like as far it's the first movie he made. Yeah, it's the first movie he made after Earth.
Oh, I forgot about that movie. Oh my god.
It's the only Shyamalan movies I have not seen are Praying with Anger, Wide Awake, which are 2 movies before Sixth Sense, and After Earth. But I know that After Earth was a big box office bomb. It was a big expensive sci-fi movie, and The Visit is like kind of returns to his roots in the sense that it's like a small scale horror film, and it's really great. And I think that is where he shines. I think that Shyamalan is good at like creating these like personal levels of tension, and I just don't think he has the skills to make like a big sprawling like a big sprawling kind of fantasy like this. Like I just think that it is beyond his abilities.
I guess just a question for you: what works for the Sixth Sense, or not Sixth Sense? What works for Signs that doesn't work here? Because I feel like a lot what you said with this movie pertains to that as well, in terms of a little bit more of a sprawling adventure.
Everything. Well, Signs isn't a sprawling adventure. Signs is what I like about Signs is kind of what I've been saying about what I like about his movies, and that Signs it's an alien invasion movie, but is from the perspective of one family. This one, like, really, Signs is like there's this one family that has gone through this loss recently. Mel Gibson's wife has died. He's a man who he used to be, he's lost his faith, and he's trying to regain his faith, and he's trying to keep his family together through this scary event, which is an alien invasion. And in Signs, we don't see the big spaceships coming towards Earth. We don't see the Will Smith in a fighter jet shooting down aliens or whatever. Like anything that we see of ships or aliens is just like on the TV, and like it's a small scale story told about this fantastic event. And I think like in Knock at the Cabin, I don't know if you saw that, is a similar thing where like the world is ending. Well, so this isn't the whole plot of the movie, but like Knock at the Cabin is the world is ending. The biblical apocalypse is happening, and the whole movie takes place in this cabin with this group of people who I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but like this group of people in the cabin are dealing with shit while the world is ending outside. Yeah, and any of the world ending shit we see, we literally only see with the characters watching it on TV and watching like the news reports of it, whatever. And I think that like staying within that realm really helps it. And I think that also another thing too is that like in those movies, it's human characters going through human shit. Like it's like Mel Gibson's wife is dead and he's having a hard time connecting with his kids, and that's what's going on. Fair. And that's something that a lot of people can relate to. But like I don't know about like, oh, she's the Madame Narf, which only comes one in like a century, and she needs this guardian, and she needs help from the scrub, and then the Tartucan or whatever, the fucking the 3 tree monkeys, which there's 3 of them, but they're known by one name.
You could just start saying random bullshit words, and if you said it was in the movie, I'd be like, fine.
Tartutic, not Tartucan.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end of the movie, she she gets grabbed by a giant eagle, which we see from this. And literally, the movie ends on a shot of us looking up from the water, from the pool. A giant eagle comes down. It looks really blurry, and clearly they're trying to save money on the VFX by like having us like look under the water, and
it already looks bad.
It already looks bad, but it comes down, swoops her up, and flies away, and that's how the movie ends.
That's
and
it. Credits.
She's taken away. Roll credits. Yeah, no, it's a thing where like, yeah, it's this big sprawling movie. I think another one thing you can compare it to, as far as like something like the fun of something like The Happening is I think The Happening has a lot of fun manic performances.
Yeah.
And I think that the actors in The Happening bring a lot to what's going on, as far as like the actors in The Happening are kind of like more comedic guy, like someone like what's his name? John Leguizamo in The Happening as like the math teacher who's just like obsessed with math, and like there's this crazy thing happening, but he's just like, you do math problems, that'll calm you down, you know? Like I think that whereas like the actors in this movie, like Jeffrey Wright, Paul Giamatti, Bryce Dallas Howard, like all these people,
Jared Harris too.
Jared Harris, Mr. Radiation from Chernobyl himself, are all people I consider like very serious dramatic actors, and they all seem like they don't know what to do with this, or like they don't know how to take this material.
Right.
And I think
that's a really good point. I mean, you give Paul Giamatti any role. Role, he's the type of guy to knock it out of the park. And here, I feel like he was just given the direction, like, okay, so you have a serious stutter, but Paul Giamatti forgot how to do a stutter, not because of its own fault, but he wasn't given the proper direction to actually make his character honestly believable or interesting. He just comes across as creepy.
I just think that the characters in this movie don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti just feels confused.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole movie, like he just seems like he doesn't know what's going on, which I don't know either. But yeah, it's, I don't know, Lady in the Water. It's a thing where it's like, also, you know, another thing about The Happening too is that at least The Happening has a, what's it called, a forward momentum in that, obviously, like as far as what people are dying throughout The Happening, like, and the characters are getting into smaller and smaller groups because the disease or like whatever the thing is in The Happening is like killing more and more people. The stakes in The Happening get higher and higher as it goes, because you literally see more and more people dying, whereas like I think Lady in the Water meanders for most of it.
That's a really good point. There's I don't think there are any stakes at all. There's no linear progression. There's no real character arcs either. No character has any form of change in this whole movie, except for the one dude who like is just like, I don't believe this, and then he's like, all right, well, now I believe it. Nothing else happens. The pace of the movie too doesn't really lend itself to showing any progression. The editing in this movie is awful too. You remember that scene where he's like carrying her out in the, it's like 15-20 minutes into the movie. It's where they first see the wolf thing. What's the name of the grass wolf?
I was about to say Lord Scrotus. The scrunts.
The scrunts. Like they see the scrunt, but they don't show the scrunt. And it cuts. They're just like meandering around, standing. He's carrying Bryce Dallas Howard, and he just turns towards the camera and runs and starts screaming at the top of his lungs.
I remember that scene.
There's no indication of the monster, but there's also just a hard cut, the same hard shot on Paul Giamatti, and just is like, all right, I'm gonna open my eyes and run in a straight line, no movement, no zoom ins, no nothing, and then it cuts to like the I forget the name of the effect where like you manipulate your lens zooms and you like move.
Oh yeah, the Martin Scorsese shot.
Yeah, they do a Martin Scorsese shot on a fucking pool.
The jaw zoom pan thing, yeah.
On a pool with
on a pool,
nothing in it. What? I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I like I said, it's not great. It's not one that, like, how do I put it? It's rarely do I say like, I don't try to convert people to Shyamalan. I think it's a thing where it's like you either like him, and this definitely isn't one as far as like it's not his yet. Like, I'll just reiterate, like, I appreciate that he tries, and I think that the thing that make me the mad is that yeah, he's trying something here and he's trying to like to say something, but I think that his arrogance kind of gets in the way a little bit.
Yeah.
Like he wants to have this like big grand thing without like actually having anything to say to earn it.
Yeah.
And that's whereas like yeah, like I said, I think he works better in simpler, like under a more basic, you know, thing. Which I like. Yeah, that's I don't know. It's a thing. He's not the most versatile director, but I don't know. I'll always show up for his movies.
It does make me want to revisit Signs though, and
yeah, check out Signs. Check out. Have you seen Trap?
I've not yet. No.
Trap is a lot of fun. Trap ain't deep. Trap don't. You know the premise of Trap?
I do know the premise of Trap. Yes.
Yeah, like a serial killer. You said we did an episode on Trap, and me and Joseph liked the ending of Trap is where a lot of people like it definitely goes to a weird place, but like most of that movie is fun. Like it's a fun popcorn movie, like a little cat and mouse thing. Check out Signs is my favorite movie. His Signs I think is where all of his strengths kind of come together. Check out Signs. Let me know what you think. Folks, yeah, we did a Signs commentary track for the Patreon. I don't know, and we have for folks at home, you can go to YouTube and check out our highlight video for that if you want to see some snippets of that for free. But if you want to listen to the whole thing, go to Patreon. Yeah, I don't know if we'll do an episode on that. Let's talk about props. Let's pick a prop from each movie that you'd want to have. I feel like one of these movies is going to be way easier to do a prop for.
Fuck. Okay.
Let
me try the harder one. Let me do the harder one first. You go first.
Jeffrey Wright's crossword. I don't know. As far as like in this movie, I think as far as there's either the cookbook manuscript thing that in Shyamalan's apartment, maybe, as far as like it just says like I think the cover, it's literally just a cover that says The Cookbook by Vic Ran or whatever. I think that'd be just a funny you know what I want? Yeah, I want the manuscript of his book like framed.
Oh god.
It like on the wall, and then people will be like, "What the fuck is that?" Like on the wall, like, "Oh yeah, that's
Ramblings of a Man from a Methadone Clinic."
Exactly. As far as I think it'd be a good conversation piece. I can't really think of necessarily anything else from.
I'm gonna go with Reggie's Barbell. How about that?
Reggie's Barbell. That's solid. It is. Yeah, that's solid. I'm trying to think. I wish there wasn't like. I feel like this movie could have used like a fairy tale book or something. Like fucking the Korean mom whips out like an old like Korean folktale book with some like illustrations of narfs and scrunts and scrotuses and stuff.
No, this movie needs a furnace for the prince, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what fixes this movie.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just stick with Yeah, I'm definitely just gonna stick with the cookbook manuscript because I think that'd be a fun conversation piece, like just to put on the wall in a frame.
Yeah.
In like a little frame and be like, "What's that?"
I'm trying to think. For Shape of Water, I do like eggs, so hard-boiled eggs would be kind of cool.
Just taking the eggs.
There's
a lot more from Shape of Water. There's a lot of.
All right, I'm gonna think of. I really like.
I'm tempted to take Michael Shannon's car. That's a fucking badass car.
The fucking Cadillac. It's the
Caddy.
The modern man. Man.
It's a sexy car. It's a sexy color.
It's a sexy car. How about this? I'll take Michael Shannon's wife.
Michael Shannon's wife. There we go. I mean, hey, he treats her like a problem.
He does. Oh.
In that fucking movie.
Fuck. Now I feel bad. I'm gonna do. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually gonna do. Oh, excuse me. I am going to do the. I literally just blanked on it. I'm gonna do the syringe that Michael Stolberg has of the poison and inject inject myself with it when I watch The Lady of the Water.
Lady of the Water. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of between. As far as like, I think Michael Shannon's car would be my dream one in the movie. But as far as like what I think would be more realistic, yeah, I definitely want the illustration of I guess I'm going to go like the illustrations of Eliza and the Fishman that Giles draws.
Yeah.
Is a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen that as like I think that was like a poster for the. I think that is a poster for the movie I remember seeing Shape of Water poster.
Yep. My real answer, by the way, is going to be the TV that they use. Watch all the classic movies on in their room. That they've got some taste.
I just want this poster. It's not that expensive.
Wow, what size is it?
I remember.
That's not expensive at all for that
24
size.
by 30s. I've seen, so for folks at home looking at it's like an illustrated like Shape of Water. Like I saw this fucking poster was in the movie at the Regal Cinemas that we would frequent in Albany. I remember seeing this poster like our freshman year of college. But there's an illustration of the movie that's similar to this poster. I think I'd want that, or the one of the fish man just chilling in the tub. I think is a good one. And now I'm probably gonna buy this poster. I'm gonna see if I can get it bigger though. Yeah, no, cool, good prop. But yeah, so I think that we've said what we can say about this movie. This has been a really fun record. Thank you for coming on again, Jack. This is a really good one.
I fucking hate that movie so much, dude. Sorry, if I use the profanity budget of.
No, it's okay. You can swear as much as you want. Fucking A. All these are listed as explicit. I think it's funny because we spent the first half gushing over like an incredible piece of art, and then the second half was just the roastiest roast.
Oh, God, I feel like I'm burnt. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's okay. The time to go watch, like, I don't know, fucking. I
depaused my David Lynch honorary marathon for that piece of shit.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of at the Oscars this year. There's going to be a lot of in memoriam David Lynch stuff going on. But I'm trying to say, I think an Oscars live stream or something would be fun. That'd actually be really fun. I don't know. We're gonna do something special for the show for the Oscars. I don't know what yet, but I gotta figure it out. But yeah. So for those of you listening, this has been Midnight Movie Gang. It is currently 10:38 p.m. Night Movie Gang. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please, something I should probably be saying. Let us know what you think about these movies. What movies do you think do you want to hear us talk about on the show? You can check us out at Midnight Movie Gang Podcast on YouTube. Check out the animated reviews on there and our movie reactions on there. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. You can also listen wherever podcasts are. Follow us on Instagram. Yeah, thank you for listening. Good night.
Have
Bye.
A good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, here we go. With childish frustrations and complexes which the police authorities at James Thomas believe to be the lover of Miss Williams and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Grant everybody that I'm here to hold on. Oh, please tell me where they've gone. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How could I got in here? 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent.